NIS America brings us Yomawari, Lost in the Dark, a game about a girl who, with the help of her flashlight, must avoid ghosts and monsters in the search for her memories. The game is available in Nintendo's eShop from October 25th, and as usual NIS America releases a physical version as well as a limited edition for the collector. This game probably won't take up too much space on your Nintendo Switch, it requires 2 GB, but after all, this is no small game. There is much to explore, which I discuss later. If this seems like an interesting game, the price tag will be around $40 before any discounts. So what is this game about? This is the story of a girl named Yuzu who suffers from a curse. She wakes up in a gloomy forest only to realize that she remembers nothing. Pretty soon she meets a mysterious woman who explains that she must venture out in the city to find out the truth, knowing why a curse rests on her and why she doesn't remember anything. This is the starting point of the story, and the mission is for her to recover her memories. The further into the game you get, the more information is given. But despite everything, I experience the story as cryptic at times. Some memories in the story can be complicated to understand and need to be put into a wider context. This depends on the story being non-linear. The memories can be found in different order, that is to say, one memory can have a clear explanation, while another can be perceived as vague. Therefore, the story becomes clearer when you find a couple of memories. You get a greater understanding of what this is really about. At the beginning of the game, you get a brief introduction about the controls and what abilities you possess. The most useful item that also permeates the entire game is the flashlight. It's used not only to illuminate dark alleys, but also to see enemies and detect objects. If standing still, the flashlight can be rotated 360 degrees. However, if you walk, it locks in a certain position. This can feel a bit odd as visibility becomes limited. It would have been beneficial if you could walk and rotate the flashlight at the same time. Now, it's unfortunately not possible. Another mechanic that is fairly unique is the ability to close your eyes. This trait can be used to become invisible to certain monsters. The only problem is that you lose a lot of speed when it's used, almost to the point that you prefer to run past the monsters instead of closing your eyes. But sometimes you have no choice. If you find yourself in a narrow alley and stand face to face with an enemy, then you have to put up with the fact that it takes time to get past your enemy. But visually, it's a pretty cool feature. When you close your eyes, it looks as if you are in a parallel world, a dark place where the enemy pulses in red. The possibility also exists to walk at a normal pace, and if you want to sneak you can press L, and to run you press R. However, you have to keep an eye on the meter in the lower screen. It indicates how much energy you have. When it runs out you can't run anymore and have to wait until you have recovered. In general, the control feels perfectly fine to use, but in some situations it can feel a little awkward, especially considering the limitations of the flashlight. In this game, the idea is to explore a city and find objects that can be linked to a certain memory. After finding something interesting, you return home to your house and use the item to watch a short cutscene. After that is done, new roads open up in the city. The new places are unique in their own right, and usually contains monsters and enemies that are not found anywhere else in the game. However, you cannot go into battle. Instead, it's about avoiding detection, or managing to run past or away from the enemy. Often you see yourself being chased, which is a central part of many enemy encounters. So much is about being in control of your character, manage your energy and find good routes. You don't have a health pool in this game. One hit and you die. And if you die, you have to start over from the last save or from a secret checkpoint that is sometimes available. It can actually be a little frustrating. I would say that you will probably die a lot, so you can't count on redoing certain parts several times until you manage to progress in the game. But the game also contains an exploratory aspect. The city is large and contains lots of different areas, and since you find items everywhere, it can be important to examine each neighborhood carefully. If there is a path you haven't taken yet, Make sure to go there, it could be the key to moving forward, so you should be prepared to spend a lot of time running around the city looking for things. The environment looks really nice. The characters, houses, most objects and the environment in general looks beautifully hand-painted. To create a scary place, the developers have also made clear differences between light and dark. Most of the time only the road and a limited part are lit. The rest is darkened. It creates an eerie atmosphere, but at the same time it looks quite cute actually. It's almost like you could call this a cozy horror game. The enemies don't really look that scary. It's almost like they need a hug. Strong contours and coherent color combinations form the basis of how they can be perceived. What can scare, however, is the combination of the sound effects and jump scares. I recommend playing with the sound on. There is hardly any music in the game, but instead many sounds that contribute to a certain tension. For example, the pulsing sound that occurs when you approach an enemy. This in combination with the countless jump scares that are everywhere in the game, almost to the point that you stop reacting. The first time I jumped out of my chair. The second time I raised an eyebrow. Then you know what to expect. You're no longer surprised. But at least it adds another dimension, an extra nerve to the game. Yomawari Lost in the Dark is a different horror game that can appeal to those who like puzzles, exploration and who don't need a sword and shield to get ahead. This is very much about survival, avoiding enemies by hiding or running away from them. The level of difficulty can be seen as relatively challenging. Some puzzles in particular can have an unexpected solution, where you sometimes have to use your characteristics in an odd way in order to win, or that you have to understand certain patterns in a larger context in order for a door to be opened or a key to be found. It can be tricky at times, but a game can also be a bit confusing, that you don't know where to go or where to look, so exploration matters. You rarely get a clear indication of where you're going, rather you have to rely on clues, which can be entertaining and challenging indeed. You have to think and explore. But a sour thing is when you accidentally run into an enemy and die, and it's not so fun to restart from the last checkpoint only to go back to the same place again. But it's in the nature of the game and makes one realize the importance of being careful. If you're greedy and stressed, there is a risk that you will die, and then you will be punished with a boring walk. The game runs fine on Nintendo Switch, not once have I experienced the game crashing, and hardly any problems with lag. This is in my opinion a solid game on Nintendo Switch. If you like the odd combination of coziness and jump scares, then this cute horror game might be worth a purchase. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I review new games every week. Have a nice day. See ya!